All right, you saw the title. Let's get right to it. The MCU, no secret, not been in a great shape lately. Since Endgame, I'd say their movies have been not good. Would you say not good?
Not great. Not
Not great.
showstoppers.
This movie, however, good,
Good.
good,
Enjoyable.
enjoyable, entertaining.
Entertaining.
Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the MCU is in fact back. Now that they've made Marvel's Wreck-It Ralph, maybe we're back on track. What do you think, Marv?
They've got the potential, right?
They've got the
They've got
potential.
the potential. I can see it working. We see. They have managed to screw up things before. I'm not quite sure to say it is.
So we're going to talk about Thunderbolts, Marvel's Thunderbolts. Marv and I just saw the movie
Twice.
twice. Yeah, we just saw the movie
Twice.
twice. And since we're reviewing the Thunderbolts, you should bolt right down to that like button and
Uh?
make sure you hit that, huh? We're going to do non-spoiler first, and then we'll get into spoilers later. So non-spoiler, what do you think about it?
It was a lot of fun. It had a lot of heart to it. It's got a lot of. I really like the action scenes. They're very grounded, very fun. Characters are great. Their interactions are really fun. It feels like it has like some actual life to it, which is really nice.
You know, I went into this pretty skeptical. The past couple of MCU movies have not been very good, so I went into the, open mind, but I was not expecting much. And maybe it's just the low expectations, but I thought this was really good. I thought this was pretty entertaining. I think it was worth the time. I think the pacing is great. The concept is great. The characters really sell this. Red Guardian steals every single scene
So
that he's
funny.
in. David Harbour knows exactly what he's doing. The scene, I can't get into it right now because of spoilers, but there's a couple of scenes where he just really sells it. He really brings this movie together. This is a completely different movie without him. And then Valentina, this is definitely not what they planned for Valentina's
No.
character, but boy, is she doing fantastic. She is eating up every scene that she's in.
Very cynical and like predetermined in that very scary way of I've planned for this. Like don't even try to throw me off guard because I've accounted for everything.
And yet the movie itself is
Quite
full
hopeful.
of heart. The movie has a great emotional core, and that's saying, Marvel movies aren't exactly known for their emotional beats. They're usually known for like undercutting serious things with jokes and not letting things stand on their own. But this movie has emotional beats. This movie has heart. It has an actual message. It has character arcs, if you can believe it for an MCU movie.
The emotional core of the movie, I think it harkens back to what makes so much of the past MCU so good. Like their best stories were always ones that were character driven. We see like with Iron Man and he gets this like nice little arc of like, his morals changing and things like that. Like when they were able to take those steps into these larger than life characters and make them human, that's when it's always been at its best. And I'm glad to see it kind of returning to that sense.
Absolutely. It's a character driven movie. Things don't just sort of happen for the sake of them happening. There's not some giant sky beam at the end. This is a character driven movie. And if they can keep doing this, I think the answer is yeah. The MCU is absolutely back.
I'm sure after like the notorious kind of flop of Black Widow, they weren't really planning on revisiting these
Absolutely.
characters. They kind of threw Yelena into Hawkeye just kind of as a little side note.
Just to have her there, yeah.
But I'm glad that they took that response from the fans and like the enjoyment of those characters into this movie.
And Yelena's a lot more than just Black Widow again.
Yeah.
As sad as it is to say, Yelena gets more character, gets more character development, has more of a genuine arc in this movie than Widow had in her own movie, than Widow had at any point in the MCU.
Probably I would say so, yeah.
Florence Pugh does fantastic. I mean, she's over here bawling her eyes out in a perfect in-character accent. Fantastic. Genuinely, the performances, I think, are worth seeing. The action scenes, we'll see how much we can get into without getting into spoilers. I think they're worth seeing as well.
I mean, we do see in the trailer that original knife scene, and I think it translates really well into the core of the movie. It doesn't seem like they just picked that one out because, oh, look, we have this one really good action shot. I would say throughout the movie, they hold that same kind of thought to the action of like less cuts, less, big superpower laser.
Right.
That's really fun to see that grounded action again, more similar to like the Winter Soldier or even the first Captain America movie.
Yeah, there's not a bunch of shaky cam. There's not 40 different cuts to show, one movement.
Yes.
I would say there's not a single action scene in this movie that's disappointing. And that's saying something for a movie that does not end in the traditional way that MCU movies tend to end.
Yeah, we don't have a big CGI army
There's,
of
yeah,
people that, We don't even bother worrying about killing because they're weird aliens or weird computer things.
The dialogue was fine. It was passable.
It was mostly human.
The pacing's great. It feels like it moves at a breakneck pace, but there's enough time for characters to have moments together. And unlike typical MCU movies, we don't get every single serious beat undercut by some joke. It's like what if we did an MCU movie and then we just did it correctly?
Yeah. Like, what if we just remembered what we were doing before and we did that again?
And we did that again. Bob turns out to be a great character as well. Bob, from the trailers, I was really worried about Bob. He seemed to be like the annoying sidekick type character where he's making like off-kilter jokes that don't really fit the scene and ruin everything. But Bob is also a great character. There's really not a single character in this movie that isn't interesting, that isn't up to their own thing, that has full motivations for what they're doing, except for one thing that we'll get into in the spoilers. But everyone here is good.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a big standout. But I'd even say like what you're talking about with Bob and the other characters that are introduced for this movie are also very well cast. Like Bob is consistent throughout the movie in a way that feels realistic to the character. He's traveling on the emotional beats of the heroes with us.
Lewis Pullman, he's doing a really good job.
He's got really good facial expressions.
I bet he was cast off those facial expressions. The way that he can make like his little eyelids shake or little parts of his cheek quiver a little bit in certain scenes. And there's a lot of, there's just good themes. There's just good themes of being kind to yourself, understanding that you've made mistakes, moving on from those mistakes. And this whole idea of like, it doesn't really matter what you've done. If you have the ability to help, then you should help.
Can do something, do it.
Exactly. This might be the first that anyone said this, actually. I might be coming up with this right now, but it has this sort of idea of with great power, there comes great responsibility. What? I came up with that one just now.
I can't believe it. You're a literary master.
Exactly. Shakespeare should hire me.
Shakespeare, my God.
Shakespeare should hire me. But that's kind of what this is about, is what if I have great power, but I haven't used it responsibly?
And that's so interesting because they all take it from different angles, right? Like we have Yelena, who had no choice. She was raised as an assassin through this whole thing and then kept continuing to make these life choices, not having anything else. Contrasted with John Walker, who got to have this like beautiful, military career. He gets his dreams. He gets to be Captain America. And then he gets in his own way by being this like selfish asshole who can't manage to really deliver on what he has sold himself to be. And it's interesting to see the aftermath of like this perfect image of yourself has crumbled.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This right here is what people want from the MCU. It's just a tight, well done, well cast, family friendly action movie with a little bit of heart in the middle. And that's all they're asking for.
Yeah.
That's all they need to be. That's all they've ever needed to be. The fact that they have been struggling to hit that is incredible. But we're back here. We're back.
We're back. We've found the right size pants. We're not too big for our britches anymore.
All right, before we go into spoilers, it's pretty clear already, but Marv, would you recommend this movie?
I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's got some good heart, some good moments, some good laughs. I think it's just an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
I would put it at like an A-, B+, personally.
Just a good movie. Just a good movie.
Yeah.
Not a waste of time.
Not a waste of time.
And that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah.
I would also recommend that. That's the Marvin Laurie seal of approval. Not a waste of time. A good movie, not a waste of time. Not amazing, not incredible, but it wasn't a waste of time. And frankly, at this point, that's all we can really ask for from the MCU.
Right, because the MCU keeps trying to make new peaks, and it just needs to have good movies.
You got to build up to it.
You got to have good movies. You got to have a good foundation.
One last thing before we move into the spoiler version. If you do go see this movie, personally, I recommend not seeing the
second
end credit
scene.
You can see the mid-credit scene. That's great. See that. The final end credit scene, I think, actually spoils the ending of Fantastic Four. I would recommend skipping that.
I would too.
So you ready to go into spoilers?
Yes.
All right. This is the spoilers. If you haven't seen it, click off, watch this after you've seen the movie. We're into spoilers, okay? This is your warning. 3, 2, 1. So the new Avengers.
The new Avengers.
The new Avengers. Do you think they're going to stick with that?
I don't know, because especially with the end credit scene and Sam Wilson making his own Avengers is very interesting. But I would like them to stick with the new Avengers. I would like to see these people as kind of like our core set.
How much do you want to bet that who is in the core set is entirely dependent on which of these two movies was more successful?
Absolutely.
Thunderbolts and, what is it, Brave New World?
Brave New World, yeah.
Whichever one of these two movies was successful and liked, that's where the direction was. They're going to just pretend that that was always the plan.
And I think it is Thunderbolts.
And it's this one. It's the new Avengers. I was not expecting that title reveal at the end there. That's what the asterisk is referring to. That the title is actually the new Avengers.
The new Avengers.
Which you can't call it that.
No. I'm glad they went with Thunderbolt.
You definitely can't call it that.
But I like the new Avengers, right? We've got our Captain America doing his thing, being
Captain America, but he's an asshole.
the worst, yeah. We've got Yelena, which kind of fills
Black Widow.
but I would say more of a Black Widow towards the end of towards the beginning of Endgame, right? Back when she was a real character.
Yeah, they're not full analogs one-to-one with each other,
Yeah.
although there are a lot of similarities. I mean, Red Guardian similarities to like Thor, because remember originally he was like the fish out of water type guy, but I much prefer
Red
Big
Guardian.
Russian man. The conversation that he has with the Winter Soldier, where he's
Oh
like,
my
"What kind of
God.
serum did you get?" And he's like, "I don't know, Hydra." And he goes,
Oh,
"Oh,
Hydra. Fancy.
fancy."
That was fun.
He's a standout this entire movie. The part where he is screaming at the group like, "Don't go
From the
in there, they're
car?
gonna burn you, don't do it."
Okay,
Beautiful.
I do have one small gripe with that scene, though.
Mm-hmm.
Should it have been when he picked her up then? Because we already hear in that conversation on the limo ride home that the plan has failed.
Yeah, he definitely didn't hear about the burning part. He specifically heard that they had already survived, and then he comes there and he's like, "Don't go in
the
there."
vault. Right?
But I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. It's clear they shot one first and then the other. The plan changed, right?
Yeah. But that reveal was really fun.
I thought that was great. So they all meet up in this big bunker, right? The movie starts. There's bits before this, but really the movie starts when they all get into this big bunker. Valentina has told Yelena, "Hey, if you want to be whatever, I'll make you whatever you want to be. You got to do one more thing for me. You got to go to this vault and kill this thief person." And then they get down there, and a bunch of people are down there. Our cast is down there. Ghost, Taskmaster for like 12 seconds. You got U.S. Agent. Bob is down there for some reason. They're all down there. They have this great, tight little action scene, which has some good moments in it. It's got some good action, and I really like the knife toss that you were talking about.
The knife
where
toss is really fun.
I think it's Yelena throws a knife, and it gets bounced between every single character,
was
and it comes
fun.
back to her. That was great. I'd like to see more like that. That's all I need from these action scenes. Just fun little highlights. Like, the Winter Soldier was so good, mostly because every single action scene had some highlight like this that stood out that made you remember it. I love the knife toss.
Yeah.
So they get together, they kill Taskmaster,
Just
which
boom.
fine. Honestly, fine. How are you going to include a character whose one gimmick is that they copy the other characters? That's
Yeah.
get him out of here. Get him out of here.
It's not as fun.
Trash, worthless character. Out of here. They just
Jeez, you don't have
toss
to
her
be
to
mean
the
to her.
side. They meet Bob. And at this point is when I'm like, this is going to be a bad movie. Bob is out here and he's got his mumble or whatever. They make this joke, "Stop saying Bob. Why is everyone saying Bob?" And I was like, God, this is going to be an awful movie. Thank God it picks up from that point. But then they break out, and then we get to see some of Bob's dark side or whatever. We get to see a bit of Yelena's past, and Bob is there. And then they have a conversation about the Void, and it's clear it sets up the themes of the movie. And we've got pretty heavy themes for an MCU movie.
Yeah, this like internal personal struggle. It kind of harkens back a little bit to like Iron Man 3 and his like panic attacks, but on a much larger scale of like, how do we live our life with regrets?
There's a real undercurrent of suicide
There
for all
is.
of these characters. And Bob actually just directly asks to have that happen to him
Multiple times.
And it really sets up this idea, because Iron Man 3 was dealing with PTSD as a whole, but this is dealing with just life.
Yeah.
Just being alive. Very strong themes that I really was not expecting them to deliver on, because this is the MCU. I really thought it was just going to be established and we're going to move on and never come back to it.
Or even like undercut it as a joke.
But not only did they deliver on that theme, the climax of the movie is delivering on that theme. Can you imagine that? An MCU film where the climax isn't a big punch fest, it's delivering on the movie's themes?
Imagine.
On the emotional story between the characters? The director sat down and said, wait a minute, this movie has a theme. It should probably finish on that theme. Absolutely incredible. I don't know another MCU movie that actually does that. Because again, these are just cheap action movies. That's all these have ever been. They're just
Yeah.
action movies. They're literally the entire MCU is, what if the summer blockbuster action movie that comes out just happens to connect to the next one? And that's all these have ever been. They're just the family-friendly summer blockbuster action movie, but the characters are sometimes in each other's movies. But this one really thought about its themes.
And it had a very nice through line. That's what I was kind of mentioning about earlier with like Bob and his consistency, right? Like throughout this, we do see that he has those up moments and those down moments, and he embodies it all the way through. And I'm really glad that he gets to be kind of that red line on the murder board, right? Connecting all of the characters, connecting all of the events, pulling everything back into this emotional core. And I really liked how they did that, and having the void be on the opposite side of the century of like there is an equal and opposite reaction within him.
This movie is asking the question, well, what if you gave the superhero serum to just some random guy, to just any old random guy with all of his baggage, yada, yada, yada. And if this were a Zack Snyder movie, he would have turned into some horrible fascist monster, and it would have taken another horrible fascist monster to take him down. But this wasn't that. The answer was, yeah, he's going to struggle, and he's going to have a high capacity to do bad things, but it doesn't have to be that way. You give this super soldier serum to the average person, then they would want to be better, and you could work with them to make them better. There is a world in which the average person elevated to greatness can be better, can do something. It doesn't have to be the perfect man, right? And that's just a great theme. I really, really enjoyed this movie for the themes, which is something that you don't get to say very often for MCU films.
An MCU movie that actually made me cry a little bit.
Yeah, there's some real good emotional beats. Absolutely.
Little check-in with Bob when they've gotten out of the elevator and Bob pisses off U.S. agent is really sweet and nice. Yelena and her father, the dialogue was a little clunky, I think, but it did feel at least realistic, because these characters probably wouldn't have the language to have an emotional conversation.
How do you feel about Sentry? That fight scene there and everything, I thought it was quite well done, actually. This fight just takes place in a small room together. Yeah. They're all just in a room.
And he completely feels in control of the situation, which is nice. And then to see, because another good point on the actor for Sentry is when he sees them retreat into that elevator, you get this nice like shot of seeing Yelena's face and then back to his face, and he can tell that he's not quite on board with this. And then you get into that conversation with Valentina of like, why do I have to take orders from you? Why do I have to hurt these people?
Is this the first MCU film without a villain?
Would you classify Valentina as a villain?
I don't think so. This is a Marvel movie where not only are there no heroes, there's no villain either.
They're just
people. It is a fully character-driven movie, a fully character-driven MCU movie. And again, in terms of movies as a whole, this is probably not fantastic. We're talking specifically from the frame of an MCU movie. This is well above what we've come to expect. This is an MCU movie with no villain. Sentry, his evil Sentry form is not... It's not him. It's just a stand-in for depression or bipolar disorder, right? In fact, they literally turn Sentry into a Heartless. He gets those yellow eyes, and he's just a Heartless, and then Sora comes in and saves the day. The villain of this movie is mental health.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Valentina herself even is not a villain, because her entire motivation is not any worse than anyone else we've seen.
Yeah, power hungry.
She wants to be the one in control of protecting everyone, but there is a genuine wanting to protect everyone.
Yeah.
She's probably no different than Nick Fury in terms of this. Like, she gets more villainous scenes because she has to drive the plot in this movie.
Yeah.
But Nick Fury would have made all of these same decisions.
Yeah, the Golden Guardian of Good is very similar to how we saw the weird planes in Winter Soldier that would be like able to see everyone's face.
Yes.
Similar choice.
That ending, I know we're kind of bouncing around a lot at this point. We just saw the movie. This is like fresh off our heads. The ending there, when she announces these are the new Avengers, and then Yelena leans over and says, "We own you now," solidified this movie for me.
Yeah.
I think it was a pretty average movie up until that point. But when at the very end, instead of Valentina like comically being dragged away in a police car, like it's an early 2000s Spider-Man movie or something like that, she shows that she can think on her feet at any time. Like, her one character trait is that she can turn any situation around. She is beautiful at this. And the actor does such a fantastic job of playing every single scene straight. And they go to get her, they go to arrest her, and they walk through the thing, and there's the press, and she goes, "New Avengers," and they're stuck. They can't do anything anymore. Beautiful. absolutely beautiful.
I do wonder on the rewatch, one, you can tell when she starts to put her pivot into motion, when she sees them all get the applause after that big, like, crushing
Yes.
piece of concrete. You can see it in her face that she's starting to recalculate. But also, does she intentionally speak louder of, like,
Yes,
I
I
want the
caught that too.
extraction for them to come get her?
I didn't catch that on the first watch, but on our
I didn't
rewatch here,
either.
yes, at the end there, she is purposefully speaking super loudly. Oh, I don't have any backup. Oop, I'm all alone. I sure hope no Avengers come and get me.
No
and
one
then
comes and
walks
gets
through.
Widow me.
Beautiful acting choice from her to decide to play it that way. How do you feel about the torture rooms?
Very interesting that we got to see the little hints of them beforehand, of Yelena in the woods, John Walker in his home, and Valentina in her old home as a child. And I think they all do a very good job. I like that they're all very unique. Like, Yelena's is that first time that she betrays someone for the job. Walker's is, it's not him killing the kid.
No.
It's not that moment where he has thrown his entire image away. It's the moment with his family, and he is so self-absorbed in himself then he can't even care about the people around him that he is supposed to love and care for in his family.
Yeah.
And I do like that is his shame as well. One, because it highlights that family aspect, but also I think he still doesn't, especially when we see in the vault when he says define innocent, I still don't think he really regrets what happened that day in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I liked Valentina's room. She says, righteousness without power is just an opinion. When you're a child, you think that there are good guys and bad guys, but as you grow up, you realize that there are bad guys and worse guys and nothing else. That's what we get to see in that scene, is that if she had had the power, she would have been able to save her father, but her father was in that situation because he had done something, bad or whatever.
Something bad.
So her scene that she relives is the scene where her entire life philosophy is put around. As in, the writers actually took a second to think about what would be a good scene for this character, a foundational scene in which, one, she learns that her father is not the good man that she thought he was, and two, she was powerless to save him. This movie has much better writing than I think it's gonna get credit for. I think a lot of people will just sort of file this away as like a good MCU movie, kind of how we just did in the non-spoiler version of just a good MCU movie. See it if you like these types of movies, move on. But some of the writing here is tight.
I think the Red Guardian is a really good example of that, right? He's consistently very lonely throughout the entire movie, and he keeps trying to use humor to cope with it and keep like masking this loneliness that he has. We see that with his first scene with Yelena of like, oh no, my life is great, I'm doing great, like don't even worry about it. And yet he desperately wants connection with his daughter. He wants connection with Bucky in the truck. He wants to make connection with even John Walker in the limousine. Like, just so much of, I have lived so much of my life alone. And he keeps putting it under this guise of like glory. But I think what he really wants is just to have mattered and to have someone in his life to tell him that he mattered.
Remember the scene with Yelena and Red Guardian, and she's like, when were you happy? And he's like, when I was saving people, when I was just saving civilians. And I like that was their big hero scene as well in this, that their big hero action scene is just them saving people. They just save people for a little bit. They even have that big rock that comes down, and John Walker on his own can't carry the burden, the weight of this rock, and they all have to come together and put their strength together to be able to lift the burden, to lift the block. This isn't exactly a subtle movie, all right? But it has themes, and
it does.
The amount of not that we've gotten from the MCU, especially lately, I'm so glad to just have a movie with themes. A movie with themes that is shown in the writing, shown in the imagery, shown in the plot, the way the characters interact. This is a movie. Can you believe that? An MCU film that is actually a movie.
It
An
really
actual,
is.
real movie with characters.
Right, and they do, like, especially like you were saying, like the Red Guardian saving that little girl in that last, like, saving of civilians, and then to see her just,
Poof.
boom,
Yeah.
turn into the shadow was, at least for me, felt like a big shock. It didn't quite feel very predictable, but it was just, it had such a big impact after seeing them get all those cheers.
And I did like when they got all the cheers. It's the exact same scene at the end of The Incredibles.
Oh my god, it is.
It's literally the exact same scene where they save the city, and then all the people are like, wow, yay.
What does the little girl see?
That's a great question. What's a 5-year-old's torture room? I don't know. I have no idea. Hopefully nothing too bad. The movie almost lost me at the very end there when they make it to the lab and Bob is punching him. Yeah, and the room and stuff starts cracking, and it starts to communicate that like this is working and that he's going to just beat the darkness or whatever. He's just going to punch it to death or whatever.
He's just gonna punch the Heartless.
It was really losing me there. But then to have that be like the bad thing, that starts turning him dark, and what actually needs to happen is they all escape and they give him a big hug and they're all here together. We're all a big family. We're here for one another. That's actually what solves the movie. The fact that the evil villain in an MCU movie, and not just any MCU movie, the MCU movie that's supposed to help reboot this dying franchise.
The new Avengers.
The big climax, the villain is defeated by everyone just having a big group hug and just being there for each other for a second. Just taking the time to be there for one another.
And I like, too, when that happens, Yelena's the first one to get free, but she doesn't do it on her own. She does have to rely on her father to get her out of that so that she can go and make that impact, which I think was a big part of her character, too, that she looked at him and she's like, I can rely on you. I need out now.
So now we're going to get to the section that I'm going to call tips, tidbits, and nitpicks, because I have a couple little tidbits and nitpicks that I have for this movie. One nitpick that I have for this movie is why did Bucky, the Winter Soldier, run for Congress? I'm so beyond confused as to why the Winter Soldier of all characters would even want to run for Congress, let alone how he managed to convince like a political party to like fund his. Why would the Winter Soldier run for Congress? There's even a scene where he's talking with another congressman, and the congressman's like, let the system handle it. And he's like, the system that goes on in recess every 4... Guy, if you didn't believe in the system, why did you run to become part of the system? You opted into being in the system. And it never comes into play at any point throughout the movie. Not a single part of this movie is changed by the fact that he is Congressman Barnes. And I do not understand why he ran in the first place. Did that also stand out?
Yeah, it just
strange
gives
to you?
him a reason to be there. But I think we could have just seen a different way for him to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. I again, super nitpick. Has no effect on the movie. The plot is dropped like a third of the way through anyway. I don't understand why he would have ever run for Congress. It does not make any sense to me why this character would even want to be in Congress. Like you expect me to believe that Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, is spending most of his day calling up millionaires to ask for donations for his campaign? Really?
Please, can I have the
did
money?
He actually tour a district somewhere and like shake hands and make nice with people? This character, the character who throughout even this movie is shown to be really awkward and not personable, how did this man run for Congress? Why did this man run for Congress? What?
How did we get here?
Exactly. How did we get here?
How did we get here? But yeah, how do we jump into Congress? Not too sure about that.
Not too sure about that. And that's also another nitpick that I have for this is like that opening impeachment scene makes no sense at all. It makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you called an impeachment inquiry before doing the investigation? Why did you do that? You're supposed to have the evidence before the impeachment. You don't just like impeach a judge or the president and then be like, okay, now we're going to find the evidence. You have to have the evidence first. The impeachment, quote unquote, trial is mostly just a show.
Right, and I think it could have been done better through maybe her just having a press conference.
Right, and that's the thing too, is like this entire impeachment starting scene is specifically so that she can be like a sassy dick to the congressman for some reason, and then she stands up and gives this like cheesy monologue about how she's a good guy and a good person, and then it's treated as this like big heroic moment, and I'm stuck thinking, maybe it's just that I'm too politically engaged or whatever, but I'm sitting here thinking, like, if I'm watching one of these hearings, and this was the actual director of the CIA, if I'm watching the actual director of the CIA be like, actually, my name is DeFonte, so maybe get that right next time, Senator, I'm just going to think that you're an asshole. I'm not going to be on your side. If I'm watching the director of the CIA stand up and be like, I'm actually doing amazing things and helping everyone, and you all should love me, I'm not going to like that. I'm going to be like, well, who does this asshole think he is? You work for me. You're the director of the CIA, you know? Like,
that's your job.
That's your job. You're supposed to work for everyone. That's the minimum.
That's how we're doing this.
Yeah,
that's how government works.
Right? Exactly. Like, a lawyer doesn't stand up in court and be like, Your Honor, I studied the law. Yeah, we know that. That's why you're here. Most of my nitpicks have to do with the political thing, but it's just a conceit to get everyone in position, right? We just need a reason for Valentina to be destroying all of her whatevers. But that was a weird scene. And that's when I was really like, oh God, this movie's going to be awful off of that first scene. Thank God that it picks up from there.
And I do like, too, that, like, you get to see that she did, like, the little market research and stuff like that for how to make this as politically, I guess, tasteful. Maybe not tasteful, but like just the most swallowable. That she has made the secret soldier in her weird lab.
Blonde hair, blue-eyed guy.
Blonde hair, blue eyes. But she's done the market research. She's like, how am I going to get people on board with this? I'm going to make him as approachable as possible.
And I think that's like a nice difference between her and Nick Fury that I'm hoping stays so that this can be more interesting moving forward. Because we're not looking for them to just do the Avengers again. That would be boring. We don't need another Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury's whole thing is, I don't care what the public thinks. I'm going to do what's right. Valentina's whole thing is the public doesn't know what's right. I'm going to keep them happy while I do what's right. Keep the public placated, and I'll take care of it. Do you have any nitpicks for this movie?
Okay, one really stupid little thing. Does it feel like that elevator shaft is level 5? Because we see the top of the base at level 1. It's remarked that they're in level 5 of the vault. I feel like I could see up 5 stories.
Yeah, you're saying the elevator shaft is unreasonably comically tall?
Long?
Yeah.
And it definitely doesn't feel like it's 5.
There's apparently not a single other door between the top and the very... This is a vault
it goes
that
from
apparently
level
has
1
one
to
floor.
level 5.
Yeah, exactly. This is the entire vault, apparently, according to this room, has the top floor. And then according to this movie, there is one room 5 stories down, and there is nothing in between.
Maybe that elevator is just, they just got unlucky and they just picked the only level 5 elevator.
Yeah. It's really funny when you think about the layout of this place, because even the room that they're in, like, it opens up and you can go supposedly in 4 different directions, right? So that means that the layout of this big bunker is that you've got a bunch of rooms on top where it's the least secure, then one elevator that takes you down 5 stories and no other floor, just to this one vault room that apparently just leads into other vault rooms. It's built like a Minecraft base.
It really is.
It's built like I made this base in Minecraft, where I just dug down really far, and then I built a room, and then built more rooms and gave up.
And like everyone else has got these tactical boots on, but then Bob's just barefoot. And I'm like, Bob's no way Bob makes it. Yeah, Bob does not make it up 5 stories barefoot.
Well,
I guess
sorry. I guess he's super powered at this point. I guess.
Also, and our new team is 3 super soldiers / possibly Bob. Again.
I mean, I guess, to be fair, most of the time it's just... I mean, even Thor, God of Lightning, most of the time in the original Avengers was just... He was a super soldier that could fly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really all we want from our superheroes.
Yeah, we just want someone who punches really good.
That's a good problem that you've hit on, and they're probably... I would not be surprised if most of these guys get sidelined. My last nitpick for this movie is that the end credit scene, I'm pretty sure, spoils the ending of Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Why would they say that? Why would they specifically describe what it is and then show it like that? Because that can only mean that the Fantastic Four ends in one way.
And we could have just said, there's an extra dimensional ship cut off. We could have just left it there.
Could have left it there. Or just not said that it was extra dimensional and showed the thing.
Yeah, we could have just said there's a ship.
Yeah, exactly. One or the other. Saying it's an extra dimensional ship and then showing that it's the Fantastic Four. Oh, okay, great. So at the end of the Fantastic Four, I guess Galactus wins or whatever, and they have to leave their dimension back to ours.
I guess we do an Infinity War. Why did you tell me that,
movie? Do you have any more nitpicks before we get to tips and tidbits?
Can Bucky make them testify? Bucky has Okay, one, does Bucky have Shatari handcuffs? Because in the gala scene, the handcuffs that are on Ghost
the entire purpose of that scene is that he stole them from there.
Shatari. Yeah.
Yes.
So did Bucky steal from the exhibit?
Yes.
How did he get Shatari handcuffs?
He stole from the exhibit, I guess.
But can he make them testify? He's got everybody tied up and you're like, you're going to go back with me and you're going to testify in front of Congress.
Well, apparently in a world in which during your impeachment inquiry, you can just stand up and say that you're great and then leave. I guess so. But if you're asking in the real world, no, Bucky cannot compel them to testify. They can be subpoenaed and then they'll probably answer the subpoena, I guess. If you're saying that your nitpick is that you're not entirely clear on what Bucky's plan is, I'm also not entirely clear on what Bucky's plan is.
Right? Because they're all going to convene the council at night or whatever.
I'm thinking that Bucky's plan is that he's just going to capture all of them and then hope he can just verbally convince them to testify against her, I guess.
I guess so.
I don't know what he's going to do with the Red Guardian.
I just have here, is Steve a bad guy? Right? Because
Steve?
Is Captain Rogers, is Steve Rogers, Captain America, a bad guy? I'm not quite, because I think righteousness without power is just an opinion, and there is bad guys and worse guys.
Yeah, he would be a bad guy, absolutely.
Would we just view Captain America as a bad guy?
Well, yeah, because you have to, like, what this movie is trying to say, I guess if we were to, like, give it way more credit than it deserves, right? Because this is just an MCU movie, and no movie from a multi-billion-dollar corporation is going to have genuine revolutionary themes, right?
Mm-hmm.
but there is definitely an undercurrent here. There's an under theme of violence itself. The practice of violence, the use of violence is an inherently bad act, but there are times in which doing a bad thing is good.
Yeah.
That seems to be the type of thing that we're going for here. Which, obviously there's a bit of a fascist spin to superhero movies as a whole, right? Because
Yeah.
we're talking about this world in which like there's just one Superman who can put things together. But the whole reason these were created was out of a time in which one of the most horrific things in human history had happened, and a lot of people were just wishing that there had been someone to have prevented it. Nowadays, it's often taking this bit of a fascist turn of like, well, we just need someone to set things right. And that's why, personally, I hate the Zack Snyder Superman. But yeah, I would say so.
All right. And then I have a few rapid fire nitpicks. When they drive the truck into the building, they run through glass, not drywall.
Yeah,
she
I don't know
does
why
say
she
I
says
just put
that.
in the drywall.
She says I
in.
just put in the drywall. They clearly drove through glass. But
It was
okay,
a glass
whatever.
wall.
Sure thing.
Hair consistency for Yelena is a little weird. Yelena has a different haircut in the vault than she does in the rest of the movie. Bob's training is weird. That we get like the one scene of him breaking
Yeah.
glass and suddenly he can pull off Bucky's arm,
right.
he can melt a gun, like he just has infinite power after breaking one glass.
He's supposed to presumably bring a glass to him, and he explodes it. And then she's like, I've got one more thing to teach you. And then he's just Superman.
Right? Like, and we just, the power creep on that one, especially because it's only supposed to have been like 1 or 2 days max.
I wouldn't be surprised if the whole Sentry plot was different originally as well.
Maybe, yeah.
There's probably a version of this movie that does end in a big action scene or whatever, where they beat him up or whatever.
And I'm
You know
glad
what I
it
mean?
wasn't that.
It was better because it wasn't that.
Yeah. And like bringing back to Val as well is such a good character because she from the start is manipulative. We get does this look motherly enough in the outfit? She read his file. She knows what he wants, what he needs. She positions herself to call him Robert, and she's like, but they just see you as Bob. And that's very consistent throughout it of like she calls him Robert
like his mom
to
did.
separate herself. Yeah. To be like his mother and to help just start that othering process in his mind of like these people don't actually care about him. When she sees as soon as he brings up Yelena.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's gonna be a problem.
She's really good.
She's really good.
Tips and tidbits. This is tips, tidbits, and nitpicks. Let's get the tips and tidbits. Tip, where do you think you can go pee?
Oh.
I would say maybe the scene where they're all in the truck together and they're like comparing their little weapons. I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
But once they're in the truck, you could probably go pee because that next action scene doesn't matter. All of
Yeah.
that. If you need to pee earlier, what do you think?
I guess maybe the gala scene. Like it does kind of set up that Bucky's working the assistant, but you'll get it.
Yeah, so the gala scene's about half an hour in, and then the truck scene there's probably half an hour left. Those are probably the two plays. That's our tips. Now, for little tidbits, I liked that the Molotov cocktail did nothing. That was cute.
I did too. That was cute.
That was very cute. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is the breakout from the vault, where from the audience perspective, you really think that this whole thing is falling apart and they're all every man for themselves, but every single one of them come back, even when they have the opportunity not to do so. And it really just, again, these themes, it really shows that each one of them wants to be better. They haven't been given the opportunity. And even the part where Ghost just disappears and the light doesn't turn on, it's clear that each of them thinks the other one has betrayed them, and yet all of them still stick to the plan, hoping that that's not the case. And it works. I think it's great. I think it's a great movie that shows just a lot of heart, a lot of thought put into it. Great themes, great delivery on the themes, great action scenes, great acting.
Yeah, the calm eeriness of the darkness and the void taking over New York was really nice. It wasn't like over exaggerated. We didn't hear the screams, but we did see the people running, which was really nice.
It's a great effect. Just the sudden poof, poof.
Boof.
I thought
love
that was
the
really
boof.
impactful. That's more impactful than if they had just like killed the guy or whatever. Just seeing him just go poof into darkness, scary. There's a couple of horror movie elements to this, like when the room's attacking them and the room's like grabbing Yelena and stuff.
Yeah, and the choke.
And the choke, yeah.
The cut by Ghost was really nice. That was a good way to break that tension. That was really nice. I liked the additional rooms we got from Yelena. I liked the gun scene. Definitely gives like of course the first one gives survivor's guilt, but so does the second one as well. Of like this pain of thriving in this environment, and that she not only does she protect her younger self, but she also won't look at
She
it.
also doesn't look at it, yeah.
She also won't look. Do you think the Malaysia doctors come back? Like I know she blew up
that's
the
a great
building.
question. The two doctors that he had killed originally? No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess not.
Do you think they're just stuck in their
Well, she
torture
did
rooms
blow up
forever?
the room.
She did blow
So
up
I think
the
even
room.
if they came back, they probably died.
Also, where does the little hamster go? She takes the little gerbil out of the Malaysia room before she explodes it.
Just somewhere, I guess. We never see it again, do we?
She just took it to like a pet store maybe or something.
Maybe ate it.
Oh no, she
Probably
wouldn't
ate the
eat
gerbil.
it.
I think
She
Yelena
wouldn't
ate the
eat
gerbil.
it.
That's my
No,
headcanon.
she has it in like her little hand.
This is supposed to be the training facility for them to like test out their super soldier serum. Is that a super gerbil?
Super
Where does the
gerbil.
gerbil come into this? When you're developing like a super serum that turns you into Superman, why is there a gerbil here? And if we're at the point where we've gotten a human trial that actually works, like we're at human,
Why is the gerbil
still
here?
there? And again, what part of making a super soldier serum requires putting a gerbil in a maze? You know what I mean?
Is it a hamster or a gerbil? It doesn't matter.
It's pretty large, so I'm gonna guess a gerbil because I think hamsters are smaller.
Really?
Yeah. People in the comments, is the hamster or the gerbil the small one?
But it looks like the hamster in G-Force.
It kind of does look like the hamster in G-Force, but in G-Force they're small. Hamsters are small.
Are they hamsters in G-Force actually, now that I think about it?
I
Or
don't
are they
even- maybe they're
gerbils because it's
G for
G-Force?
gerbil? I don't know.
Okay, is Bob just Sadness Hulk?
Is Bob Sadness Hulk? That's a great question, Marv. We will have to see, right? Because unlike Hulk, where he pops out and he's just big, strong man, presumably when he pops out, he just kills everyone again. He just puts everyone to their trauma room. I don't know what they're going to do with Sentry. They kind of got themselves in a Captain Marvel thing again, where like if he just like you have the ability to instantaneously put anyone in a torture room where they have to relive their most horrific, traumatic moments over and over again.
Or the entire Avengers team rolled up into one. And the fact that he doesn't remember. Like, did they have to sit him down and tell him what happened?
Yeah, did you also feel that that's kind of meh? He should have remembered. If the climax of the movie is him overcoming this, like, dark void or whatever together, then he should have remembered that, because that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird when he came out and he was like, what happened? And you're like, didn't quite stick the land. It's like the gymnast stuck the landing, but then did a little, like wobble a little bit and then had to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ooh, you were really close to a perfect landing
You almost
there,
had
but
it.
you kind of stumbled a little bit. Him forgetting, I would agree, is not great.
I liked the cute little goalie piece of like, so I didn't have to run. And he's like, but that's not what you told me. You told me that you were gonna catch others' mistakes, which was really sweet. It was sweet. I don't know, and I think that too of like him still having the picture up. Like he does crave that connection.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know if he deserves it. I would say even of like if he
didn't
deserves
wanna
to
be a
talk to
burden.
Yelena. Yeah.
That's what he told her. He's like, I didn't think you wanted me.
What happened to Mom?
Presumably another Black Widow agent, I thought. So
She
I
was
guess
a part of the agency, but she does leave with them at the end of Black Widow.
just gone, I guess. Not popular
Just
enough.
doing something else.
Character doesn't exist, wasn't popular. Sorry.
Oh well.
Should have stolen the scene like Red Guardian. Then maybe you could have your own side piece in the movie. Oh well.
Who do you think is in Sam Wilson's Avengers?
That's another great point from you, Marv. Not only how does he copyright this name,
Who's on his team?
Who does he know?
Scarlet Witch is dead? Question
dead?
mark?
Yeah, who could he possibly know to put on his team? He doesn't know anyone.
The costumes in this were actually really nice too.
Do you want a costume section? You want to talk about costumes?
I do. I would like to talk a little bit about that. Red Guardian does feel really like worn in and nice. Bucky's got his nice hair slicked back and he's got this really complete look about him. I like that we get the little like take off of the vest from him in that fight scene. Sentry looks amazing. I feel like that is a really good representation of what they would come up from market research. Sentry looks really, really good. I think everyone looks really good. I think the costumes, maybe a little bland, but I think that fits for all their characters and all of their general vibes. I would say the only one I didn't really love was probably Mel, because Mel just kind of like fades in. I mean, she's a minor character, but she doesn't really feel like she's anything. She's a stock character. But honestly, yeah, I think everybody did really well. I think from casting to costumes to performances, everything really flowed and helped to further that. It does at some points feel like they looked at their chessboard and they're like, okay, what pieces do we have? What story can we make? But once they decided what story they were going to make, it does feel like it has a real through line.
So is that the Marv review? The MCU is back. It's only going to be good movies. It's all uphill
The
from here.
MCU
The MCU
has
is saved?
hope. The MCU has hope.
Has hope.
It is
It's
not dead.
We'll see how Fantastic
I'm
Four.
really excited for Fantastic Four. I like the aesthetic of Fantastic Four so far.
I am less excited
We'll see.
for Fantastic Four. I loved when Bob turned to the camera and said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the Marv and Lori.
Yeah, no, and when
YouTube
Red
channel.
Guardian looked at the thing and he's like, oh yeah, on my 10-hour drive through the United States, I was listening to Marv and Lori content.
That's what he said. He said, as I was driving through Utah, I listened to their entire Minecraft playlist. I listened to that weird 3-hour stream that Lori did one time where he chopped down trees and then went and found a fish. Red Guardian was really coming in clutch for that. There was a lot of marketing for Marv and Lori in this movie. I'm surprised. I'm really happy that they did that.
I'm glad that paid off.
I'm glad that they paid off. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, if you want to hear more from us, more movies like G-Force, Hmm?
Can it be anything else, please? Can it please not be
Why?
G-Force?
Why don't you want to watch
I don't
G-Force?
want to. I don't want to see
You don't
G-Force.
want to
Don't
see the
make me
cute
see.
little hamsters?
Comment section. Don't make me say G-Force. Okay.
G-Force,
If you say that we're gonna watch G-Force, then Marv's gonna make me watch it. I don't want to see G-Force. Okay.
Let's watch G-Force.
Comment section. Any movie other than G-Force.
Fine, Bolt.
And Bolt. Anything other than those two.
No, you gotta let me
Anything
have
other
one.
No,
You gotta
no.
let me have
Comment
one.
section.
Come on, Lori.
Comment. Do your thing. Comment section. Any
Please,
other movie.
no. Bolt or G-Force. Preferably G-Force because I want to see the cute little hamsters.